For sticking with us here for November is National Alzheimer's Awareness Month, and joining me live here in studio to talk about Alzheimer's disease is Sameera Jackson from UofL's Peace Hospital. Sameera, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate it. Alzheimer's is certainly something that affects so many families out there. Can we start by just talking about what are some of the signs and symptoms, if you will, that people can look for in their loved ones?
Of course. If you want to think about it, there's three basic categories. So you want to think about cognition, behavior, and mood. So what I mean by cognition, it's things like, you know, forgetting things, not remembering how to use things that they use all the time, such as like a car key, not even knowing like what that is, not remembering new instances, not remembering how to get places. Sometimes people wander, and just overall confusion. You know,
is it more short-term memory then most of the time, or is
most of the time it is short-term memory. So that's the hardest part. So they will remember their wedding song and things like that, but it's the short-term memory. So when you're getting to the point where you're noticing your loved one is, you know, more confused than not. Sometimes they might be a little delusional, think that people are doing things to them, they're misplacing things. So an example could be, you know, a loved one could misplace something and they think somebody stole it, so now they're accusing you of that. So that's when we kind of go into behaviors. So sometimes behaviors look like agitation, sometimes verbal aggression, physical aggression, and again, a lot of that stems from the cognition because they're scared about what's happening to them and they don't know how to best express it. You know, and then the mood, of course, kicks in too, where sometimes they can become isolative, be very irritable, understandably so, because they're scared about what's happening to them, and they might not be able to fully verbalize what's going on. So the biggest thing to really think about is, you know, is this becoming a safety issue? Is this becoming an issue where it's impacting their daily life and how they're functioning?
Who's likely to get Alzheimer's? In other words, what are the risk factors?
Yeah, some of the main risk factor is heredity. So if you have a family member that has Alzheimer's, not just your parents, even your brother and sister, that's a huge risk factor. You can get genetic testing done. I would talk to your primary care physician about getting testing done because it can tell you if you have the gene that carries it. And there are some things that you can't do to prevent it. It's not curable, but there are types of Alzheimer's, such as vascular, that is impacted by your health, like your blood pressure, diabetes, and things like that. So there are some things you can do to kind of keep some of that at bay so that it doesn't develop into something where you're having a hard time functioning overall.
And what are the resources out there for families once there is a diagnosis?
There are tons of resources. You know, I, of course, work at Peace Hospital. We have inpatient psychiatric services and also outpatient for those that are 55 and up. And with our outpatient, you can work on things like anxiety, depression, just, you know, loss of basically your parent. Loss and grief is what a lot of families go through, because that parent or that loved one is no longer how they used to be. So we do offer a lot of supportive services. The Alzheimer's Association is another great place to turn for resources.
Some excellent information here for families. I know a lot of folks do go through it. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Of course, thank you.
All right, we appreciate it.